Hey everybody, welcome back to the Siren podcast. My guest tonight is Forrest Proctor. He is a filmographer and he owns Epic Film. He is also a musician at Forrest Proctor Music. He's played and filmed all over the country and done all kinds of cool stuff. We talk about what he's doing now, what he's going to do in the future. We also get into a little bit of a controversial subject, talking about the COVID-19 vaccine and how things are being run in the country. So make sure and stick around for that. A couple things up first. On the 25th of April, I'm having my live stream, live listen party, where I'm going to be hosting bands from local and just, surrounding areas, people that have lived in Hattiesburg, Laurel, Petal, things like that, maybe have moved off, or people that are here currently. I'm going to be hosting their original songs. If you want your song played on that podcast, just hit me up on my Facebook page at Ambulance Studios with 2 A's. Head over there and do that. You can submit a video off your phone or a live studio recording, you doing it at a show, whatever you got, send it in. I've had people send in just them sitting at their dinner table, singing a song with a guitar. I've had full-on productions, videos. So it doesn't matter, whatever it is that you have, send it in. I'd love to show it on the podcast. And also, I'm doing a tasty riff contest. So if you play guitar, if you play bass, you play drums, the penny whistle, the violin, whatever, send me a video. You can do this with your phone. You can have a full-on production, whatever you want. Just send it in of you playing a 20-second clip, around 20 seconds, of just a badass riff, something gnarly and sick. Go ahead and send that over to me. On that same podcast, I'm going to be playing all of those, and I'm going to pick a winner. So who has the tastiest riff? So during that podcast, I'm going to be taking up donations and have a tip jar. And all of the proceeds and money that I get, I'm not going to keep any of it. I'm going to give it to local bands that are out of work right now due to the virus. So make sure and check that out. I've got a lot of cool guests coming up. I've got Chad Knight. He's going to be on Saturday. And I've also got a couple other bands coming up in the next few weeks. So make sure and check those out as well. So without any further ado, this is Forrest Proctor. Awesome. Well, thanks for coming on, man. What's been going on?
Yeah, dude. Thanks for having me. Been super impressed with the stuff I saw on your podcast.
Oh, awesome. Thank you. Yeah, I've been wanting to start a podcast for, 3 or 4 years now, and I just never got off my ass to do it. So finally, with everything going on, everybody's online streaming, I thought it'd be a good time to at least try it out and see how it works out. So I appreciate it, though.
Bro, I'm hoping I'm behind you because I've been wanting to do the same thing, and I'm hoping like me setting all this up to do this with you is kind of like going to be my motivation to just keep it set up and do some stuff. So
yeah,
awesome.
That's awesome. Let me know when it comes out, and I'll check it out for sure.
Sure.
So we don't really have to talk about anything in specific, but just based on what you're doing right now. So. Just so everybody listening knows, you are a filmmaker. You own Epoch. It's called Epoch Film in just Epoch.
Great. Epic Film and yeah, it's pronounced Epic. I kind of stole the name from Dad's old company, and it's just an alternative spelling for Epic. But yeah, it's EPOCH.
Oh, okay. I was thinking Epoch, but Epic's even better. So.
People pronounce it Epoch as well. I always pronounce it Epic, so I didn't even realize until I heard there was a newspaper called Epoch News, and they spell it the same way. So I didn't realize there was like two spellings, 2 pronunciations. But yeah, so that's my cinematography mostly and photography business, and I've got the privilege of traveling all over the country in the last few years to do that, and that's kind of my breadwinner, I guess you would call it.
So, what is this that you were doing in the desert? I caught some of your footage doing that. What exactly were you doing out there?
Okay. Well, I work for the military for about 4 to 5 months out of the year, and they send me all over the place to do marketing material for the Marines and the Army. And so I was in 29 Palms, California, doing some work for the Marines, mostly photography there. But while I'm in these places, I usually try to, capitalize on the scenery. And so me and a couple other filmmaker buddies, I've been putting together this series that I was originally calling Lost in the Delta. And basically, I would just go to different cities in the Delta, kind of explore the history, meet the locals, maybe eat some of the food there, try to meet like an old blues player or whatever. But it kind of morphed because of my traveling. I had to start kind of renaming the episodes. So I'm only 2 episodes in. I had Lost in the Delta as the original, and then this one's Lost in the Desert. But basically, when I wasn't working, I was playing open mics. Actually got to play with Dick Dale's band. I got to meet a lot of
That's sick.
famous producers and a bunch of famous artists, and that's actually where Queens of the Stone Age was from. So I spent 60 plus days in the desert where Queens of Stone Age is from, and that's like my favorite band. And I didn't even realize that until I got there. I think I actually mentioned that in the episode, but yeah, we were just trying to make something cool, kind of talking about Joshua Tree and just my experience there, which was awesome. So that's kind of what it is. You have to go back to Lost in the Delta to kind of see where the whole thing started, and now it's morphed into, the second episode isn't even called Lost in the Delta; it's called Lost in the Desert. But it's been fun. I like it.
So where you might have just answered this question, but where's next? Where are you going? Where are you going to be lost next?
Well, I'll be in Fort Smith, Arkansas, for 2 months this summer, which is a really cool place. It borders the Arkansas-Oklahoma line, and so there's a lot of really cool music there, especially in Fort Smith and Fayetteville. And I've been there before playing, so I've already got kind of some connections with bars and music venues there and musicians. So this one should be a little easier to like get my foot in the door, even though California was like nothing, man. I mean, it's weird. They don't really have blues there or, bluesy country music. So when somebody comes in and starts doing that, they're like kind of in awe. And I wasn't expecting that. Like I can't get, 20 people to show up to a show in Mississippi for some reason, but in California, people were kind of bar hopping to see me play. But the next place I will be lost is in Fort Smith, Arkansas.
Well, that'll be interesting. I mean, that's not a usual place people go, so that sounds pretty awesome. Arkansas. I don't know anything about
Sure,
Arkansas
and
besides
Arkansas is
Bill
beautiful.
Clinton.
Arkansas. Go ahead, Robert.
I said I don't know anything about Arkansas besides Bill Clinton, so uh, it'd be good to see what they got going on up there. So
Sure. Yeah. Hey, Fort Smith has got a killer music scene, and Fayetteville's got a poppin' music scene. But that's where the University of Arkansas is. So, college towns like Southern Miss, Hattiesburg has a big music scene.
well, I think like you were saying, it's hard to get people to show up in Hattiesburg. Uh, and it's kind of a trend I've been seeing that there are a lot of the same type of bands kind of going on in Hattiesburg. So whenever you go out somewhere else, you are kind of becoming more unique. So that is probably why it's different over there in California compared to here.
Sure.
So
Yeah. Me and my best friend Clay Parker, we've been in bands together forever, and our rule for a while was, one show in Hattiesburg a month, and then all the rest had to be out of town. This you get a better response. People they're not used to you, and it's like, oh, those are the traveling musicians. It's kind of got this mystique to it, I guess.
yeah,
But
if you're at the
always live
Hippo,
by that. That's the best way to go.
yeah. If you're at the Hippo every Friday night, they'll be like, I'll catch them next week. Make them
Hey, there's
want
a few
more.
people out there that can pull it off. They have a really loyal following in Hattiesburg. But they're kind of older guys. They've done their touring, they've done all that, and now they're kind of settled in. So some people can pull that off, but I think it's like later years. Thomas Jackson, Kerry Hudson type guys.
Oh. Well, that's cool. So, what's the name of your band? Is it just Forrest Proctor or?
Well, I'll try to give you a really short history timeline type thing. So I started, I would say, my professional music career. Not that I'm like really, because that's what a profession is. It's something you make money with. Then I started a band with my best friend called Deaf and Poor, and that was kind of a more heavy stoner rock band. We did a lot of stuff in Hattiesburg. We did a short little tour. But what I found was, I love playing with all those guys. Don't get me wrong. But what I found was, when you're in a band, you're kind of relying on all the stars aligning. Else's life has to be going just right. You could have a guy just quit on the spot. You could
That's
have
a
a guy die on
fact.
the spot. I've had that happen. I've had a really good friend of mine just pass away in the night, and it was just, it destroyed the band.
Wow.
And so now with my kids and my career with cameras, it's just easier for me to be a solo artist right now. Now, when I do have people come on and play, I've got a couple guys that are kind of like hire out guys. I just call it Forrest Proctor and the Crooked Crows. But for the most part, I've transitioned from like playing live to just recording really high quality songs and videos and then putting those out, because to me it's like if I get 2,000, if I get 3,000 views on a video, that to me is better than having 20 people come to my show and not really listen. I know those video viewers are like listening to it, so as much as like I do hate the internet in some ways it's like it's opening doors to like a different type of model for musicians.
Yeah, I've never thought about that. 3,000 views, that's 3,000. Essentially, 3,000 people viewing it. So that's a really good point. You might be onto something with just recording videos instead of. We don't need to stop the live
Sure,
music,
I
but
don't know if it's
uh,
effective, but you're allowing music to make my money, so it's not like, it's not like it has to be 10,000 people watch it and maybe 100. I just keep interaction with the fans. It's playing out though. I'll play out.
yeah, I do just want to mention one thing. There are some connection issues going on, so everybody listening, if it sounds like he says something and I don't answer, or I say something and he doesn't answer, there is a little lag and some connection issues. So that's what's going on.
What do you go by?
I go well here. I've gone by Bobby my whole life, and once I got a job somewhere and they changed my name to Robert, which is my legal name. Um, so in my professional setting, I go by Robert, and I've just been going by Robert. Once I got a little older, it just seems less
Okay.
teenagery. So, I mean, but whatever you want to call me, Robert or Bobby, whatever's.
Sure, I apologize. I just typed in your email, so it said Robert.
Yeah, it's whatever. I don't have a huge preference. So what got you into filmmaking? I mean, back I ran into you a few times back in the day. I don't remember you being into filmmaking. Is that something you've always done, that, or you just started doing, heavy and professionally, or what?
What's funny, it's kind of like I made a full circle because I actually started making films early as like age 7. My dad had just like a VHS camera, and everybody said that, my dad had a VHS camera, and I would film stuff with it. Well, me and my brother would really cut films. Like we would write the scenes out, do storyboards. And they weren't great, but we'd had special effects and all kind of crazy stuff. And over the years, I got a little more into music, and so the filmmaking kind of went on the back burner. But I always had a camera laying around to like film the band, film the practice, or get somebody to film us at a show. But it wasn't until I got to Hattiesburg in like 2011 or 12 that I decided to buy like a DSLR, and I just bought it to film my band Deaf and Poor's music video. To be honest with you, and it really wasn't a music video; it was like a promo, like a minute long. But I filmed that, and then next thing you know, all these bands were asking me like, "How much would you charge to do a music video? How much would you charge to do a promo?" Actually, South Soul was one of the first ones that I did, and I went back and watched it with my wife today, and it was just the worst video of all time. It needs to be deleted off the internet, or at least my name taken off of it.
it
Put somebody else's.
it wasn't
But
bad. It was pretty good.
well, I guess for not really knowing what I was doing, like didn't even know camera settings, just turned it on and started recording basically. Um, but yeah, that's how I got into it. And then over time, I got more interested in like the actual technical aspects of storytelling and all that, and started shooting some low budget commercials. Continued to do music videos. Got a job with a traveling production company, and that's where I got hooked up with the Marines and the Army. And so I do a lot for them. And then just over the years, just kind of picked up clients here and there and worked for different companies, ESPN, Travel Channel, um, and it just basically started with DSLR from the bottom. And now I operate Ursa Minis, Red. I can do it Alexa or whatever. Um, but humble beginnings. My first camera was a little $350. My first camera that I was telling you about in 2012 was a Rebel SL1. It was like an all-white Rebel camera, $350. And actually, a guy you might know bought it for me as a favor, Russell Thornton.
Yeah, I know
Russell
him.
Thornton Russell Thornton purchased that camera for me, and I'm forever grateful, Russell, if you watch this. He purchased it for me. In return, I did some video stuff for him. So he bought the camera, $350. I did like a little studio commercial for him, and that paid for the camera. So, yeah, that's how I got into it, and that's my money now. And now I just do music because I love it, which is great.
That's nice. Yeah. So how are these? I hear a lot about the Alexas and the Reds. What's the main difference from your standard DSLR and a gigantic, cinema camera?
Sure. Well, the main difference is a DSLR is a photography camera. They started adding in video specs and the video capabilities just as an added bonus. So photographers wanted to capture a video for fun, basically. But the 5D Mark II was kind of the first one to ever do that. And over the years, they've realized that this is a very popular thing amongst budget filmmakers. So they've continued to up the game with the GH4s and the Sony A7 IIIs. And me and you both have the EOS R, which is incredible. Like, to me, it matches perfectly with Sony's cinema line, which I have one of those behind me. But the main difference is cinema cameras are made to produce a cinematic type image, and also they're set up for video. They don't take stills. They don't have a shutoff time. The dynamic range is a really big difference, especially with the upper echelon of them, the Ursas and the Alexas. Basically, how much shadows you can capture and how many highlights you can capture at one time. A lot of times you take your phone and you try to film inside and you've got a window. You can see the window's real blown out. It's just because the iPhone sucks and it doesn't have a lot of dynamic range. But like a red could capture the shadow in the corner and you could still see the trees outside. And basically, you're paying for dynamic range and I guess a little bit of aspect ratio because some of those cameras go up to, between 4K and 16K video. But that's the main difference.
16K. What is that? What's a file size for that? Like a terabyte for a video?
Dude, I don't even want to know. I am not high up. That's like some Stranger Things or 1917 type stuff.
Wow.
I mean, that's this kind of stuff that they've got the camera tethered to a trailer that has like a server. So as they're recording, going to a server, and then it's getting backed up on another server. So I'm not anywhere close to that level. But I think the only camera right now that does that is the Red Helium, and it's like $87,000 for the body.
That's cheap.
Only.
That's affordable. Everybody can pick one of those up.
Actually, I don't think anybody owns them. Like nobody really owns one of those because it's cheaper to rent it.
Yeah.
You can rent it for $10,000 for a week.
Wow.
If you don't need it for 8 weeks, then there's no sense in buying it.
I would feel very nervous holding a camera that costs that much money. Plus, I mean,
Yeah,
the
they're all
lenses and all that stuff on it.
If you get your hands on that, it's insured.
Oops. Well, yeah, that's cool. I've never actually held or used a cinema camera. I've just now started dabbling in video work. I've done some video work for some bands. I've just used the EOS R and a bunch of. I got like an 80D and a T6i SL2.
Yeah, the T6i is a great starter camera, but the great thing about DSLRs is the full manual functions using your shutter speed, ISO, white balance, and aperture. That's the same principles that go into a cinema camera. And so if you're using a DSLR, it's very, very easy to transfer over to cinema camera because you're basically learning all the principles of, motion blur, uh, aperture, using depth of field, using your shutter speed to, create different looks, but, white balance, all that stuff. It all transfers over really, really easy. So a lot of people who are using DSLRs, they're way more equipped to use a cinema camera than people who are using like broadcast style cameras.
Mm-hmm.
All you gotta do is like, news station, they just turn on their camera and it works. I know I got buddies, no offense. I mean, journalism is way different than cinema, but if I hand them a DSLR right now and I was like, hey, shoot me some slow motion, they wouldn't know what to do. I don't mean to bash on journalism because it's a different type of thing. Like they're just trying to deliver a story. So I don't get caught up when I see news TV and it's like it's not cinematic because it's not supposed to be cinematic.
Yeah. Well, maybe you can be the first cinematic news journalist ever.
I tried that, man. They weren't having it.
Well, like, we just need you to turn it on and get the story and get out of there. So,
Sure.
you live in Hattiesburg. I guess you were fine during all these crazy storms last week, huh?
Yeah, so I lived in the Hattiesburg Laurel area for a very long time, and me and my wife just recently moved back. When I got back from California, we moved back to my hometown of Lucedale. So I'm actually sitting in Lucedale right now. But most of my video clients and music connections and my work in general is still in Hattiesburg and Laurel. So I'm there, once a week usually. But yeah, I've been totally fine during these storms. Now, we did have a limb come down last night, and it totally tore the power line down. But
Wow.
they were out here an hour, and they fixed it.
Hmm. Well, speaking of Lucedale, I've never really been there till probably a year or so ago. Every time I would travel to Florida or so, I'd go down there for work a few times a year. There was a pawn shop there, so I would just stop in there, and that's a really nice town, like the downtown area. I thought like if I ever moved somewhere, I think Lucedale's a pretty nice place. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I have no beefs with Lucedale. It's a little behind the times. Like, there's no bars really, so there's no live music. So but I'm only 5 minutes from the Mobile County line. So Mobile's really close. And then if I play, I usually will go up to Hattiesburg. So it's only about 50-minute drive.
Okay, cool. So what else you got going on? You got the film. You got your band. Anything else you're doing?
Well, I guess the most notable thing about my music right now, I guess if we want to dive into that, is, I kind of spent a really long time sculpting myself into this like lead style blues player, really heavy licks and blues and all that. And I love that with all my heart, but it's like that satisfies my ego, but not really my soul.
Yeah.
So I've shifted gears, and it's not like I'm just leaving the lead blues stuff behind. I'm always going to do that, but I've kind of shifted gears lately that I'm just getting back to the core basics of it. I'm trying to just tell stories again with my songs. And so it's just like strumming and lyrics. And it's really strange for me, but to be honest, it's a little more satisfying right now in my life because, I can focus on the lyrics and focus on telling the story and let that be the driving force rather than just, I don't know how to explain it, but rather than just being like, how good of a lead player am I? That was kind of like my focus before. And it was always draining because there's always somebody better. You know what I mean? Like, I was trying to mimic Stevie Ray Vaughan and John Mayer, and then friends I have that are way better than me. And so I'm still always going to do that, and I might just up and start a blues band tomorrow. But right now, I've really gotten into this outlaw underground country scene that's kind of emerging with the Sturgill Simpsons and Tyler Childers and Turnpike Troubadours and all those guys, and their stories are just so rich. Like Tyler, all he has to do is basically strum a guitar, and sounds great. Hey, one second.
Right.
Sorry, I got a 30-minute record limit on here, I think.
Yeah, they do that so
I hate it.
they can have it classified as a photography camera, and they get some sort of tax break or something instead of calling it a film camera. So they have these limits on them.
I know. I just think that's whack for some reason.
I mean, I guess somebody could probably go in and crack it and make it a and somehow take that out of the software. I have no idea how you would do that, but
Yeah, they've got a software that's like Magic Lantern or something that'll do that, but I don't know if the R can do that.
it
I don't
can't.
remember what you're talking. You'll probably have to make a cut there, but what was I talking about? Oh yeah, so just I don't know. I just gotten into this kind of more like Tyler Childers. He can just strum a guitar, and his voice with his lyrics are just so captivating to me. And so that's, I mean, I'm not trying to sound like him, but I'm just trying to have that same effect on myself. You know, if I just listen to the song back, I want to be captivated by it. I want it to be like a story, really unique story. So I'm putting down the lead for a little bit just to write the hell out of some songs.
Yeah, that's good. It's always good to do something different, something that you're not comfortable with, especially. Then, you might be telling stories and doing leads at the same time. Maybe that'll be your next jump. Who knows?
Sure. And I'm not with a band right now, so it's kind of hard to do lead. You know what I mean? You kind of have to have like a supporting cast to do lead.
Yeah.
And so that's just, I mean, I'm writing songs all the time, and I was putting out an original song a week, but it became kind of daunting. And then I went on a cruise with my family, and that really put me behind. And then whatever this disease that's happening, it all just screwed me up. So I'm probably going to get back to that next week.
Oh, well, that's cool. So, do you have all this stuff that we've talked about so far? Do you have a spot where you host this online? You have a YouTube channel. Are they different for your film and your whatever? Where can people go and check out this stuff?
Sure, sure. So we'll start with the film. The film stuff is just going to be on Facebook, Epic Film and Photography. You can check out all my videos there, all my photo albums. Basically, I do everything from mostly documentary work, but a lot of commercials, a lot of weddings, and a lot of photography for different aspects of stuff. Unfortunately, the military stuff is all classified, and you might see some of that, like, on YouTube ads or on TV, like commercials, but that's not stuff that I can just post as mine, unfortunately. But you can find all that at Epic, EPOCH Film and Photography on Facebook. I'm currently building a website for that, but to be honest, I've had a website for it for a while, and it just didn't really drive anything. Everybody's on Facebook.
Yeah.
So it's just like you can have a website within it. I am going to go ahead and repost my WordPress site for that, but for now, just go to Facebook. And then for the music, and also YouTube, Epic Film and Photography. That's where I host all my videos, or that's where they live. But for the music, it's kind of the same thing. Forrest Proctor Music on Facebook. I think I did a lot of marketing for that, so I'm up to like 3,700 fans or whatever on there. So that page has really taken off, and then all my videos are living there as well as YouTube. So just Forrest Proctor Music, basically anywhere, and then the music can be found on iTunes, Spotify, Amazon, Google Play. I think whatever you got, iHeartRadio, even some stuff I never even heard of, it's on there too. So, yeah, that's where you find me.
Cool. Awesome. So it for one of the reasons I wanted you to come on, and this is going to be the part of the podcast where it might get controversial. So, if you're just keep an open mind during this next part. So you've been posting a lot with the whole virus coming up, that there are underlying things that are not going on, and I'm going to use the word, let me say, conspiracy theory. Would you call it that, or would you call it something else?
I would say that the mainstream has taught us to call it conspiracy theory. And a lot of it probably is conspiracy theory, but I think some of it's very possible it's conspiracy fact. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm I'm like you. I'm super open-minded. I want to believe that everybody's looking out for our best interest in everything, but the probability doesn't even tell you that that's possible. There's going to be something, gain something for themselves, and that's why I just try to look at everything and keep an open mind on all of it. But some of it's probably conspiracy theory, some of it's probably conspiracy fact.
Okay, so here's what I've noticed. I am a big uh, I I like to look into all the conspiracy theories, even if they're completely crazy. I just enjoy them. They're kind of fun stories. So uh, 9/11, the moon landing, all that stuff's fun to me. So one of them, one thing I've noticed is every time now after the internet started getting huge popular, I used to be able to go on to the internet and type in 9/11 conspiracy, and it would bring up 100 videos of somebody talking about it, and they would explain it. Now, if you type it in, all you see is uh, here's why 9/11 theorists are dumbasses. And every video is just the opposite side. You never see anything that says, so for example, there's a big theory going around about 5G affecting and doing stuff right now. If you type that in, all
Yep.
you see is BuzzFeed or somebody making fun of somebody talking about that, but no legitimate. And I just want to know what the actual theory is because just out of curiosity, and I can't even find out what it is. I guess I'm just supposed to go, well, that's stupid, obviously, because everybody else thinks it's stupid. But I can't find anything about it unless you go into like Google and Google, here's somebody shared a link, and then off that link, there's a link, and then you can find stuff. So, what was interesting to me is you seem to have a lot of knowledge about this, and I think it'd be good just kind of maybe get it out there. Maybe someone else can hear it. You might be completely wrong. You might be completely right, but at least let everybody hear what it is. So, what is your take on it? I mean, I don't really know where to start, but start wherever you feel
Well,
is necessary.
I can probably segue pretty well. Me and you come from the same generation, I think. Right when the internet was really taking off at a high speed and a high rate. And I always tell people, I was at the very beginning. I was in the ninth grade when Netflix was accessible. And I remember The Union, which was a pro marijuana documentary, was on there. There were all kinds of conspiracy documentaries on there. I remember sitting with my best friend and doing what you did. Typed in all kind of conspiracy theories on YouTube, and there was thousands and thousands of video. And I don't think that the powers that be realized how powerful the internet was going to be for free speech, free thought, and just the freedom of information. And what you're seeing now, and what I hope that we can eradicate, because I have 3 kids, and so I mean, I just have a different viewpoint on life. But what I'm hoping that we can eradicate before my kids get of age is, they're choking down on that freedom of speech, that freedom of thought, and it really is, not to use an InfoWars type slogan, but it's a war on your mind. Because, like you said, if you type in 5G conspiracy theory, the first thing that's going to come up on YouTube is CNN, CNBC, what is it, MSNBC, CBS, maybe even PBS, all them things. They're going to come up and it's going to say, wildly far right conspiracy theories say that 5G is bad for you, and then they're going to have some guy with some credentials get on there and basically tell you that they're idiots and 5G is totally good for you, whatever the case may be. 5G, vaccinations, chips, whatever it is, man. Like you said, it's just there's so many like different ones, and I don't go so far. I don't think it's to even give a shit about the moon landing. I kind of care less about those. I can honestly care less right now about the aliens because it's like I used to be into that stuff, but now I got kids, and now I'm just focused on making sure that my kids have the same environment and the luxuries and the freedoms that I had growing up. Because to me, it's not fair to them that they're having to experience this censorship and what they're experiencing right now with this virus, which I think is a totally legit, real virus. I just think that the hysteria behind the virus is what is fabricated a little bit.
Okay, so explain why you think the hysteria is not warranted, or you think it's more maybe there's another agenda underneath it, or
Sure. Well, whether you like Trump or not, like I didn't like him when I first heard he was going to run because I always saw him as like the big TV personality, you're fired asshole guy. But whether you like him or not, there is a clear war on him. I mean, even if you're like a Democrat and don't like him, you can at least admit that your party is like doing everything they can to kill his chances to be reelected or to, like they've been trying to try to impeach him. So I think that's actually the main reason behind the hysteria. I mean, because if you think about it, we had the swine flu, right, during Obama's administration. We had way more hospitalized people. We had way more deaths in the amount of time that we're at now. But none of this was happening. Schools were not closed. People were not freaking out. Hospitals were not overrun. So why now? Why this time? Well, I personally, this is just a personal belief of mine. I'm not mad at anybody who thinks otherwise. Just me personally, I just think that it is an attack on President Trump, who I'm not even going to say that I support or don't support. If you go to my Facebook feed, you'll probably see I do support him. But, for argument's sake, it really doesn't matter if I support him or not. I mean, anybody could tell you there's an attack on this guy. And I just think they're trying to prolong this so that the economy that he's helped build, and that's no mystery, he has helped produce one of the best economies we ever had. And I can attest to that personally. My career's taken off because of him, because I work for the military. And he has upped the military's budget to do National Guard training, which is home defense. Like he wants us to be ready. And so I've gotten a lot more jobs since he did that. But he's boosted the economy, and what they want to do, to me, in my opinion, they want to tank it so that when they tank it, it makes him look like it was his fault, and then less people are going to vote for him. But I really don't think that's going to happen, man. I think we're in the age of awakening, personally, because most people I talk to it's weird, people I talk to who have responsibilities, kids, and things like that, they see the truth. It's only the 19-year-old kids that are still working at McDonald's and, worry about the car speakers they're going to buy next month. Those are the kids that are like really offensive about Trump, So I think the majority of Americans are like me, and they just care about freedom. That's it. Like I don't care about anything except for my kids, basically.
yeah. I mean, when it comes down to it, that's the most important. So to follow up with the economy, tanking the economy, what about the rest of the world? Like, how does the rest of the world play into tanking just America's economy, or even just Trump by himself? When we got Italy and all the other countries that are also tanking as well. What's your
Sure. Well, I'm preaching to the choir with you because, like, you told me you've been looking into this stuff since you were young, like I have. So, but to me, I'm a Christian, and so it goes kind of like in a biblical parallel as well. We've always known that there was going to be a world government to emerge. I'm not saying this is the end times. I'm not saying anything like that because it also says no man will know that time. So I don't know. But what I do know is there is a driving force and effort to create a world government. And there always has been. This is nothing new. This is something we've been seeing since like the late 60s. And all presidents, basically, other than Kennedy, Trump, and Lincoln, have kind of always hinted at it. And you notice Kennedy and Lincoln were the two that were assassinated. But and that's not funny. It's kind of a weird coincidence. But I think there's just a push for globalism, which, if there's people out there watching who research this and preach it to the choir, and then if there are people who haven't researched this, they're probably furious because they're just like this damn conspiracy theorist. But I think that's what it is, because China has been the leader of the communist regime, and they've kind of they have really solidified that with their people. And I pray their people get freed, because everybody's like, the Chinese virus, screw the Chinese, and it's not really the Chinese people. There's tons of great Chinese Americans here who have family over there. The Chinese people are rioting. They're tearing down 5G towers as of yesterday. But it's really the Chinese government that is the problem. And I think along with them and the UN and the WHO and all the acronyms and alphabet soup, I think all of that is doing their best. And if you really think about it, I even looked it up because I was like, where would I move if shit really hits the fan? If I want to get my family to another place that is as close to America, bro, there's nothing. The closest thing to it is New Zealand, and their rights are significantly less than ours. So if we fall, then the rest of the world's going to be super duper easy. And that's why I think the men in this country need to stand up and basically just say no. Just say no, because I think the whole world is depending on America to stay strong.
So, what do we, what would we be saying no to? Just the
Well, just to
the
everything. So for now, okay, so how long have we been quarantined? I'm not really sure. I
about a
know I
month.
had a conference, yeah, about a month. I had a confrontation with somebody about 7 days in who called me an asshole and said I didn't want to quarantine. No, when this first arose, I took it super seriously, and my wife's a nurse, so it's not like I'm just totally foreign to the healthcare industry. But we took it super seriously. Went to Sam's, got a couple $100 worth of supplies just in case this was like a real deal type thing, and we wrote it out. We wrote it out like everybody else. But at some point, you have to draw a line and say, we played it safe, and now it's time to reopen our country and start living again. And to me, it's a combination. So based on the numbers, which are being skewed, but even though they're skewed, they're still not high. They're still not high enough to me to all be bunkering down, because I just looked at the flu numbers the other day, and they're crushing the COVID numbers, and they're being skewed the opposite direction. And so even with the cheating of the numbers, they're still not bad enough to be hunkered down. And then if you combine that with the fact that there is basically a cure with a 98% success rate, hydrochloroquine plus zinc, which there's tons of doctors around the world saying, I'm giving this to my patients, and within 6 to 10 hours, they're symptom-free, they're going home. So it's like, there's the magic bullet, which to me is a blessing from God, because we can go into the whole conspiracy theory of this being a man-made thing. I don't really care about that either. There's like a part of the rabbit hole where I just stop, because I'm like, does me knowing more information about this help my children? No, it doesn't. So I really don't care about that. All I care about is hydrochloroquine plus zinc knocks it out. We need to save that supply, in my opinion, and this is really not my opinion, it's a bunch of doctors, but because I'm not a doctor, but in their opinions, we need to save that for the people who are super sick with it, because there are people dying for sure. But we've got basically a cure, if you want to call it that is being hidden and suppressed from the public. But luckily, our president knows about it. And that is one of the things that I keep dearest to me for hope, because he's mentioned it multiple times. And so he knows about it, which is a great thing. I just kind of worry about the people who surround him, because as you know, or you might know, his medical advisors are getting paid, and they're in with the WHO and the vaccine companies. To me, that's a direct conflict of interest. Yeah, it's just like, I don't know. Like, to me, that shouldn't be legal. But I don't even know where I was going with that. I was just ranting. That's what
That's
on
good.
that.
That's fine, man. So, what is the 5G thing? It's supposed to be creating the virus, is what the story is
I
here.
don't. Yeah, I don't know exactly how 5G and COVID really line up. I don't think they line up perfectly together. I think that the 5G is dangerous without any illnesses at all. But you think about it, if you were already had a weak immune system, and I just hit you with a baseball bat, it's going to do more damage on you than somebody who's like a bodybuilder or a, really fit guy. So I don't think that 5G and COVID are like totally supposed to be paired together, but I do think that 5G, based on research that's being suppressed, is super dangerous. And I haven't really got too much into the 5G, but I got into it enough to know that people who know what they're talking about say that it's very, very bad. And the fact that Chinese people the Chinese nation of people are tearing down 5G towers in protest. And then there's also like people who are putting them up have to wear like some radioactive hazmat suits.
Wow, I
Um,
didn't know that.
well, there's a, I mean, and, I'm not saying any of this is like completely true, but I think the general truth is out there. Like we're not to the point where you can't find the general truth. Now, the little details like the hazmat suit, I don't know. But I did hear speculation that that was another reason that the Democratic Party, and not saying all Democrats are bad, I'm just saying the party itself, that's why they wanted to prolong this school shutdown, is because they're planning on putting 5G into the schools. And it all kind of goes all the way back to Bill Gates and, depopulation, and they want the earth to be, lower population. And that just goes back to the Bible, because Satan hates humans, even the ones that work for him. He's just using them. And if you're not a Christian, that's cool. I just am. So I just take it all back to the Bible, which all makes sense to me. And Satan hates humans, and his whole goal is to create or to destroy God and anything that is associated with God, which is you and everything else. So it's all just biblical. And if I didn't have kids, I honestly don't know if we'd even be talking about this. I probably wouldn't care. I just probably wouldn't care. I'd be like, kill us.
Well, I've
Even
heard
at 5G.
I've heard
But, yeah, go ahead.
they're going to hang on. There's like a full story on they make the COVID virus. We get it. Bill Gates comes up with a vaccine that has a chip in it. Then they use the 5G that's in every towers to track everybody in the world, and that is the quote unquote mark of the beast, the chip.
Sure. Yeah. And I don't doubt that theory at all, because to me, Bill Gates is like this slimy dude that has no business, that has no medical degree, no medical credentials, yet he's over like the World Vaccine Organization or whatever it is. And to me, that's just a little sketchy. Like that should be a red flag. And honestly, anything global should be a red flag. That's why I love America, is because we're split up in so many partials with the states and then the counties and then the beats and all that. And it really does make for a safe country, because, you're making decisions on a small level and then a bigger level. It's not just like a dictatorship. There's no voting at your beats or voting for a mayor or anything like that. They just have little mini dictators that rule those areas. But anything global should definitely not happen. And I just fully believe in that. But I've gotten so much hate and threats and just weird stuff, man. Like I never thought we'd come to a time where you couldn't just say your opinion and people couldn't just go, well, that guy's dumb. No, it's gotten to the level where, especially, and I don't want to just say liberals, because I got a lot of really good friends that are on that side of the fence, and they don't do this. So it's not all of them. But it does seem that more often than not, liberal people or people who don't believe in God, they get so mad if you believe in God and if you believe in pro-life or, anything like that. It's just kind of strange to me.
Well, I've noticed that there are two sides to the political spectrum. I don't really like to prescribe to either side, because I will agree with, the government doesn't need to mess with this thing that I'm doing, and sometimes the government does need to come in and do things. So I don't like to just say I'm a liberal or a conservative or left or right. But there are some crazy left-wing people, and there's some crazy right-wing people. Sometimes I'll see some things on my Facebook that I can't believe that an adult would share as, like you click on it and you go, this is 100% not true. And one thing I keep seeing a lot of is like the media is doing this to us. Whenever we get on Facebook and share things that are slightly true or misconstrued, or like, anything about Trump, either side, Trump could cough. The right side says, Trump coughed, but he used a napkin because he's a great president. The left side says he coughed, but there was two people beside him. He should have walked outside It's disgraceful. But you click on something, you go, this is automatically false. You're automatically being the media and sharing things that are not true and scaring people, hyping things up. And I don't know if there's a big person pulling the strings, but I think both sides are actually falling for whoever is making us want to think things. You hate Trump so much that you go and do what they want you to do, or you like Trump so much that you go and do what they want you to do. I just think people really need to stop sometimes and think about
Sure.
what they're sharing, what they're reading, and just think for yourself sometimes. Sometimes things just don't add up. That doesn't look right. Look into it. But I do understand. Uh, I'll get into conversations. I'll use Reddit, and I'll have a certain point of view, and people will just literally just straight up say you're a piece of shit, and I'm just like, man, I'm not. It's not that bad of an opinion to me, and I don't see how you could even argue with it. But it's just because you disagree with it. See, I do think there needs to be. The internet has taken the I'm in your face and I'm gonna like if you mess with me I can hit you back. So people can just be like, fuck you, bitch, and you're on the internet. What are you gonna do about it? It is definitely we are in the infant stage of the internet, and we're like teenagers trying to learn how to drive. I think that's just what a lot of this is.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, man, like the last couple of weeks, I've been very upset with Donald Trump. I mean, I'm a supporter, I guess. I'm a supporter, but I'm not going to follow someone off a cliff. You know, like I'm a supporter until you make me a non-supporter. And he hasn't done that quite yet, but it's just like I wish he would. I wish he would do what we do. Like just take a night and do some research. Like
Yeah,
do some research with Pence or whatever. Like y'all just sit down and drink some beers and go look into this
or
conspiracy
Diet
theory.
Coke, whatever he's having.
At least go out there and see what the American people are saying, because the last couple of weeks I've been like, okay, he's gonna do this, he sees it. He's gonna do this, he sees it, and he just hadn't been doing it, but he hasn't been doing the opposite either. So he's kind of just in the middle for me right now. But I'm with you, man. Like I've seen so many people that are indoctrinated, and Trump is their savior. Trump is not my savior. Jesus Christ is my savior. Trump just happens to be the guy that's our president, and I think he's done a good job up until this point, and I still don't think he's doing a bad job. I don't know what the heck's going on because we're still shut down, and we've just got so much controversy around this. Like think about it, man. Human instincts are very keen. They're very well, instinctual, but they're pretty accurate. And the fact that everybody's coming out with hashtag film your hospital because all the hospitals are empty and all these big, temporary hospitals they're building are empty. They're just stage props. The fact that that's happening should raise the red flag to you. When something happens, like I know the conspiracy about 9/11 and all, but when then planes hit the towers, I was in the fourth grade watching the TV. They actually turned it on for us to see, which to me, in hindsight, was just idiotic.
Yeah, we
Like,
watched
let
it.
the,
We
let the
watched
parents
it
tell
too.
the kids. We watched the second plane go in, but to me, it's like that's undisputable evidence of something really tragic happening. Right now, we don't have that, and we have actually kind of two sides, and I would say it's 70-30. 70% of the people are like, there's something else going on here. It's not all adding up, and then 30% people are just indoctrinated into mainstream media, and they're just going off that cliff.
Yeah, I have seen, and I do know for a fact from people in my life, I do know that uh, not mainly doctors, but healthcare professionals are being let go because less people are coming to the hospitals because they don't want to go to their regular clinic checkup. If they got a stuffy nose, they're going to stay at home because they're scared they're going to get the virus when usually they would go get some medicine from the doctor. So they are, having lower, patients' bed counts or filled beds, even in emergency rooms and things like that, because they're setting up special places called, COVID units or cold and cough, whatever they're calling those. So they are having less numbers. Um, I don't know. I don't know if they're stages, or to me, it could be just the fact that we did shut down for a month. We did take time, and it is just now showing kind of the fact that nothing is happening because we did something about it. So that could be it. I don't know. I've just recently kind of started delving into the empty hospitals. I've seen it here and there, but I kind of looked into it today, and I was noticing a lot of people were saying, yeah, we're having 20% capacity compared to usual. They told us it's going to be this week is going to be the toughest week. Next week's going to be the toughest week.
Sure, I'll just start my camera over. I'm listening.
And things like that.
Yeah.
So I mean, who knows what's going on? I would like to think it's because we cut it off, and there are flu. Flu is more deadlier because it's been here, but it's also people are contributing the flu deaths. So if you go into the doctors and you go, I'm sick, I've got this, I've got pneumonia, and you die, and they go, that's COVID, even if they tested you and you're positive for flu. So if you look at the graphs, the flu numbers are going down. At the same time, the COVID's going up, but so we're not having any flu this year for some reason. That's a little sketchy. So they could be bumping it up to maybe get more funds. I don't know how it all works, but there are some things I think people need to look into. I don't think it should be met with criticism. Being a skeptical person, I think, is a good quality in a person. Skeptical, especially about important things going on in the country. So I think people should be asking questions, getting out there, seeing things, and if you just want to, I get it if you go out and tell somebody this is fake, this is not real, people aren't actually dying, and you go and cough on people and do reckless things. That's probably not a good idea.
That's how I get treated. I get treated all the time like their death is on your hands, and you think this is fake, and it's like, no, just listen to me. You'll hear that I don't think it's fake at all. Actually, my wife's biggest mentor at her hospital, her charge nurse, she got it, and she's really, really sick. And so I know it's real. I personally know, or my wife personally knows, one of her mentors that has it. And so that's not the issue at all. And I know you know that, but for some reason there are these radical people out there who, they like to jump on the train of, you want people to die. And it's like, no, I want people to live and have money. That's my thing. The economy.
I can tell you, and I kind of thought, man, it'll just, it'll blow over. People will be able to, jobs understand that we're going to come back. The economy is going to come back later on. But a lot of businesses right now are laying people off, and they're not just saying, go home and work from home, stay inside and wash your hands. They're saying, I'm sorry, we can't pay you any longer. And there are people I know that have, newborn kids. They have a family at home, and they got to go home, and they don't have anywhere to work. Now, I don't know if there's a solid answer to just say, we'll just open up the economy again. I don't know if that's the right answer, but I do know that there has to be some sort of balance, maybe somehow, because you can't send everybody home for 2 months unless the government wants to come out and say, look, keep all your employees, let them go home, and we'll pay them for you. Whatever they're making, we'll pay them for you. They're not doing that, though. They're giving out unemployment. But,
and the government we already have a system that is paying for too much free stuff anyway. And so I personally, I don't know, the economics behind it, but I wouldn't think that the government could sustain the American people for more than 6 months at the rate we're going. And we haven't even got into the infringement upon our rights with all these little mini dictators, in my opinion, like, the governors and the mayors that are just, snapping their fingers. Like typically what I learned and what most lawyers out there are saying, and I have a lawyer friend in Hattiesburg who messages me all the time. He's so mad because he says there's a process to getting laws passed. It's a long process. And they do that because they need to make sure the law is justified. But all of a sudden, because of a virus, we've decided to speak laws into existence. And that's troubling to me because our founding fathers, the only reason our country is so great is because of the work that our founding fathers put in and the foresight they had to know that there were going to be, totalitarian attitudes and governments that were going to try to impose their will on us. And if anybody knew about viruses and outbreaks and plagues, it was our founding fathers. And they didn't put anywhere in our Constitution that, hey, these apply unless there's a virus. So, like I said, the 2 weeks to me was totally fine, understandable, because we were all still learning. But then when you combine that with the low numbers, like you said, the switch of flu and COVID, that's sketchy. And then the combination of that with the fact that there's a cure. And I hate to call it a cure, but when there's a 98% success rate and the only people who don't come back from it are 90 years old that smoke their whole life, I personally call that a cure, So I think the answer is this. The answer is open the economy back up, get the hydrochloroquine plus zinc stocked up at every hospital, every clinic, so when a COVID patient does come up, you bring them in, you treat them, and then you let them go about their life. Do we really think that we're ever going to get rid of coronavirus completely? Like, why haven't we been able to get rid of the flu completely? I think it's impossible. I think COVID's here to stay forever. It's just we have to get past the BS of Bill Gates and the globalists who want us to take a vaccine. And I don't really care how much of a conspiracy theorist I sound like, because you can get on mainstream media right now and look at the interviews. They want to get us on a vaccine for this. When there's a proven, I guess it was a lab out of South France. You can look this up, but they did a test on 100 COVID patients with hydrochloroquine plus zinc. This was right when Donald Trump mentioned it. They did a test and they had 98% recovery. And so that's happened. There's a doctor in LA. He's done it on almost 50 patients, I think, as of last week. And he's had 93% recovery within 6 to 8 hours or 6 to 10 hours. So if there was no cure for it, sure, maybe I would be a little more open to different quarantine rules, different more quarantine or different employment rules or contact rules. But, at this point, man, we got to open this country back up and we got to live. And to be honest, it was unconstitutional to begin with to shut it down. If the American people decided they wanted to shut it down, that's on us. People forget that those politicians work for us. There are paid employees. And for some reason, we think that they are the kings of this country, when the king of the country is technically the Constitution of the United States. That's the actual, we live in a monarchy and the Constitution is the king. And all the people who are defining the Constitution are actually just defiant servants of it, I guess you would call them.
That's
just my opinion. Hey, folks, that's my opinion. Please do not like this guy's podcast comments up, because we are all entitled to our opinion as of now.
Yeah. So have your opinion. I don't know if we should open the economy up. I mean, I honestly don't know, because I don't know what's really going on infection-wise. Like, have we just been doing a good job, or is it not as serious as we thought it was? But I can tell you that some of the people that get it, it's pretty gnarly, throwing up foam and stuff. But, we're not saying that you're not saying that that's not what's happening. It's just, it's.
No, that's happening. And the problem is they're not getting the medication they need because it's being suppressed. I mean, some doctors are just saying, screw it. I'm giving these people zinc and then hydrochloroquine. Because the way that I understand it, and I'm not a doctor, but the zinc goes into the cells, or the zinc floats around the cells, and the hydrochloroquine pushes it into the cells, and that's what blocks the replication of the COVID onto your cells. So, and they say that hydrochloroquine by itself will kill you. So you have to have it in combination of that and the zinc. But I feel bad for the people. Like, there are going to be people who die that do not have to die, because there's a treatment out there. But right now, Donald Trump and his administration are doing their best to get to get it approved, but everybody's in bed with each other, man. I mean, that's just how I feel about it. You know, the FA or FDA and the vaccine companies, they probably all got interest together. You know, some people there own stock in the vaccine companies, and we know that the medical advisors, they're active board members on the vaccine company. So why would they sit up there and promote something that is that's going to wipe this out? That's already available, already in high stock. Like people take zinc for all kind of stuff. I take zinc, and my parents they talk about zinc, and so they've been taking it for years. And hydrochloroquine's actually in tonic water. You can find it in the soda pop aisle. Now it's not in a large dose, but if you really needed to, I think you could take some zinc and you could drink a case of that. It'll probably help.
You heard it here, everybody. Stock up on tonic water and zinc tablets.
I'm not your doctor. I do not have either of those things right now because they're out of zinc, and the tonic water is actually not that good for you. So do not take this as medical advice. I'm just talking about stuff that I have researched and heard. That's all this is. This is just research. I do cinematography. That's
yeah.
and play guitar.
The reason I wanted you to come on and talk about it, I feel like, you know, if you got to explain yourself more than just a couple words on a thing and then arguing back and forth on a comment section, it is, to me, it's so hard. If someone tells me something, I'm like, I don't agree with that, but it would take me 4 paragraphs to explain this, and I'm typing on a phone, and I really just don't really care that much. So, and you know, and you misspell something, and then if you misspell something, they're like, you can't even spell right. It's there, not there, and you're just you lost the argument because you misspelled something. So, but yeah, there are a lot of things going on. I feel like we need to hear more than just one side of this story, one opinion.
Sure. Yeah.
So.
And I'm always open to everybody's opinion. I mean, I'm sure you've seen from my feed, I have it's weird. Everybody's like, man, you got a lot of crazy right-wing people on your feed. Man, you got a lot of crazy left-wing friends. And I'm like, hey, maybe I'm just friends with everybody. You know, I get along with everybody. In fact, if you go back in time and look at my Facebook feed, I didn't start talking about politics again until this happened, because it really troubled me about the rights and all that stuff and the what do you call it, executive orders and all that. I would love to never talk about politics again. That would be great. If they would just do what they're supposed to be doing, that would be great, because I could just focus on making films and making music. And I'm not going into politics or starting a conspiracy channel. Actually, this guy conned me on to come on here. But yeah, I mean, I don't mind talking about it, and I don't mind listening to other people's opinions. But I'm with you, man. It's like if you misspell something, they get wild, and I'm a terrible speller, so I'm totally doomed.
It's if you misspell something, you lose the argument. Your argument's over, because then you're so dumb that you can't even spell things right. That's what they'll say to you. You know what? Here, this just kind of popped in my head about the toilet paper in this whole thing. So, toilet paper went out. Everybody went crazy panic buying. I honestly think that came from one store, maybe was bought out, and somebody was like, dude, check this out. They're buying all the toilet paper. And then somebody saw that picture, and then everybody thought that everybody else was buying the toilet paper. And even though nobody was actually doing it on Facebook, everybody I saw on Facebook was making fun of how everybody was buying it. No one ever admitted to doing it, but somebody in Hattiesburg, a lot of people were buying all the toilet paper. So somebody was doing it, but nobody was doing it. But I think that's kind of one of those panic things where something can get blown out of proportion just from people getting on Facebook and believing every single post that comes up. Because, I mean, literally hundreds of posts I've seen that you click on it, and I'm like, oh, well, let me just take 5 seconds and Google this. And they're like, this is not true at all. This has never even happened. I'm not saying toilet paper thing didn't happen. I'm just saying I think it's how we can blow things out of proportion and make things worse than they are, with the example of the toilet paper.
Let me interview you real quick. I got a question.
Okay.
All right, what's the bigger phenomenon? The toilet paper phenomenon or Tiger King?
Tiger King. You know, I have not actually watched Tiger King.
You
Uh,
gotta watch it, bro.
I'm-
I'm gonna watch Tiger King right now because that stuff is crazy.
well, that's all I've been seeing is Tiger King, and I keep going to watch it, but I'm right in the middle of a show that I've been
Gotcha.
watching since season one, and I only get to watch. I just had a kid. I had a kid about a year ago, so when I get my free time, it's after 8, and when I get time to watch TV, I want to watch that show I've been trying to finish for, you know, months now. So, but I'm
When
gonna
you get
watch
down,
it.
you have to start Tiger King. It's only 7 episodes, so it's a pretty quick watch.
So what I've got? So it's essentially a guy that is on methamphetamines, maybe, and he gets killed by his wife. He buys tigers for $2,000 or something. That's the
Yeah, let's go with that. Let's go with that.
well, it's got to be good
Yeah.
because that's all I've seen on. It's either toilet paper, Tiger King, or the pray for these certain people, workers.
Say this about Tiger King. It's so bizarre, you think it's a scripted show.
But it's
Like you
real.
think somebody this, like somebody just tripping acid wrote this.
Wow. Well, I'm gonna have
Yeah, it's
to
pretty.
put that on my to-do list. The Tiger King. I'm probably somebody might come to my house and cause trouble since I haven't watched it. How dare you not watch the Tiger King? Sorry.
You're good.
Well, do you have anything else to add on the whole?
I guess I'll just close with this. I am such a fan of freedom of speech. I'm such a fan of having conversations like this because we found places where we didn't necessarily agree, but I definitely don't hate you, and I'm pretty sure you don't hate me.
No.
So I would encourage people to adopt that mindset because at the end of the day, we the people rule this country. It's Declaration of Independence, us, our politicians that work for us. So we really should be the ones having the conversations and basically coming up with what we need to do. So, and I would encourage people not to get on here and just like blast hate. Just listen, and if you don't agree, that's fine. Move on. I do it all the time. This piece of dust, I had to blow it out of the way.
Yeah. I mean, if you agree with it, if you don't agree with it, it's whatever. It's all good. We're we're all gonna be good. So yeah, I really appreciate you coming on. It was cool talking to you and learning about some of the stuff you're doing and talking about everything. So once again, just you can be found Forrest Proctor Music and Epic Films, and it'll show up somewhere. Just Google it and it'll show up.
Yeah, YouTube, Facebook are the two best places, and you'll find them through one of those.
All right, cool, awesome. If you ever want to come back on, you learn about something else, hit me up. I'd love to have you back on anytime you want, man.
Sure, man. Really dig your podcast, and I'll definitely share it. Awesome. All right, man. Well, I appreciate you, and be safe.
All right, man. You too. See ya.
All right. Peace.